Dan, one of the reasons people listen to the Erotic Awakening podcast is they want to have amazing sex.
They do indeed, and sometimes amazing sex happens when you're not expecting it. Why hasn't anyone ever thought of this before? In my hand, I am holding Promescent before and after wipes. They are a soothing aloe vera, pocket size, can be carried with you for those intimate, personal cleaning that can happen anytime, anywhere. They are 100% flushable and biodegradable. They have a gentle pH balance formula and soothing aloe vera to moisturize. Before and after wipes from Promescent. Have a couple in your pockets. Takes away one of those anxieties about not maybe feeling fresh enough.
So go to Promescent.com and order your packets of before and after wipes.
Or an assortment of other products to enhance your sex life.
Use the promo code Awakenings15 and you're going to get 15% off of your purchase and free shipping.
One more time, that's promo code Awakenings15 for 50% off your purchase and free shipping at Promescent.com. This week on Erotic Awakening, sexual anxiety, preconceptions, and follower trackers.
Welcome to Erotic Awakening, an exploration of all things erotic. If you are offended by adult topics or prohibited by law, we recommend you stop listening right now.
That was very authoritative.
I try.
The Erotic Awakening podcast is grateful to the supporters of our patrons. They are going to receive ad-free, early access podcast as well as other perks.
So, thank you to our supporters.
New and old alike.
Exactly.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Dan.
So today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about sexual anxiety. It just so happens that our conversation will be with Jeff, who is the CEO of Promescent, who happens to be one of our sponsors at the moment. And although I might have, and I'm not saying I did, I might have agreed to talk to him simply because he was the CEO of one of our sponsors. But genuinely good information, good background to talk about sexual anxiety. And I really enjoyed the conversation.
Good, because not a lot of people will actually talk about a topic like that, right? Sex is fun and sex is great, and who has anxiety over sex, right? So, good topic.
So before we get to that, though, I have a question about anxiety for you.
Oh, no.
So, Dawn, I've heard that since you and I have been in a relationship, according to you anyway, you've had more sex with people that are not me than you had your total life before you met me.
Oh, absolutely. I have dated way more since marrying you than my whole life before you.
So when you meet somebody that you're getting ready and that you think you're going to have sex with, right? The chances are you're meeting somebody with the intent or with the strong possibility sex is going to be on the table. Sex is going to be coming.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of preconceptions do you have coming into contact with that person? What do you think about? I don't know whether I want to use the word worry per se.
Oh, you know me. I worry.
But what are your preconceptions about what it's going to be like and that kind of thing?
That's kind of funny because, I have you and I have the big D of 8 years, but in the last few years, I've been so busy. Have I actually had sex with other people? I can think of
a couple.
I can think of one that is not you or Big D.
Okay. I listen to the stories more than you remember the stories. What about when you and Big D invited somebody to join you?
Oh, that's true. Okay. That happened once at a swing club.
What about when you asked, you put it out there on the old FetLife to say, boy, I could sure go for a fisting. I don't remember if you were the receiver or the giver on that one.
Oh, that was the giver. That was a long time ago, though. That was like 10 years ago.
No, it just happened yesterday.
In your head, in your dreams.
And you forget about, or you don't forget about, but don't forget about, although it's mainly a BDSM relationship, would you consider the relationship with Kaya as sexual?
Sure.
All right.
So but I don't have preconceived stuff when it's another girl.
Well, that's interesting just to start with. So when you're going to hook up with another girl, there's no preconceived,
No, not really.
but with a guy,
Absolutely.
what's that? What the dealio?
Because with a girl, I don't worry so much about, I don't have to worry so much about safer sex, right? Because there's a lot of hand stuff and things like that. So
Okay.
the sexual contact is just different. Whereas with a guy, I have preconceived notions about or preconceived worries or whatever about condoms. I have worries of, are they going to be okay with using condoms? They have to be okay with using condoms to have sex with me. But a lot of guys, especially as they get older, condoms don't allow for them to perform as
Okay.
well, right? So it cuts down on their sensitivity or whatever. So I worry for them about performance anxiety and stage fright, right? I worry about, am I going to get wet enough? There's a lot of times I do. Sometimes I don't. I'm in my 50s now. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. Um, I I worry about, oh my God, I worry about weird shit. Like I am getting older. My knees don't work so well. My back doesn't work so well. I can remember being with Big D and both of us having back issues, which means you move very, very slow. So when I negotiate with somebody new, I let them know I have a bad back. Please don't flip me over. Please don't walk me. You've had that with me before where you've gone and just like thrown me over a couch and I'm like, oh, my back. So, so I have age related things. I have safer sex related things. I have, um, you know, I actually have, what if I'm too much for them? I feel like I'm a passionate person. So I can actually come on too strong sometimes. And the things that I like to do, what if that offends somebody? Me and not wanting to offend people, right? That's one of my classic themes. And so stuff like that.
Wow, I've really opened a Pandora's box here.
Yeah, well, I didn't think I had anything
Did
till I
it?
started talking.
Should be a
Well,
shrink or something.
the other
This
thing
really getting
is that
deep.
I'm really finding out that I'm a demisexual, right? So I just posted on Facebook, FetLife. I mean, I just posted on FetLife because we just interviewed somebody,
Uh-huh.
and she said, "Oh, finding guys to fuck is easy. You know that." And I just texted or put out on FetLife. Someone just said that it's
Uh-huh.
easy to find a guy to fuck. Well, I guess it is, but being a demisexual just throws a complication into what I have to deal with looking for somebody to fuck. Demisexual means I need to have a connection with them, so I worry about that. Is that connection that I think I have with them going to carry over into the sex?
Wow.
Right? So
All right, you ask me the same question.
ask you the same. Well, I don't even remember what the question is now. Okay, do you, Dan,
Yes.
have sexual anxiety when it comes to fucking new people?
Nah, let's go on. No.
What?
I will say in the past, now way, way less concerns than you do, I think. When I am about to have sex with another guy for the first time, I often wonder
What?
what's going on. I don't have sex with guys, so that doesn't happen very often. Although I recently had a dream that I had sex with a guy, and it was a famous guy too.
Oh yeah, maybe Antonio.
No, it wasn't Antonio Banderas.
Not your style.
I don't know what. I don't have a style. I don't like guys, so
So far, yet.
maybe that dream's telling me. Anyway, maybe it was a premonition. I don't know. I will say, for the most part, most of my youth, it was, will I last long enough? I've never been concerned about my dick size.
Shouldn't be.
Overall size. Sometimes it bends more than it bends more than, it's bendy. It's a bendy dick.
Bendy.
So I don't worry about that so much. I used to worry about how long, would I last long enough? But I think over the years, my own personal style of lovemaking reflects that I have taken it to heart that my penis is not the only aspect of sex. So I have that conversation with a new partner beforehand just to clear that up, to say, look, my dick is not going to be the star of the show. It may be included. And the reality is the first couple times I'm with a new sexual partner, I'm not likely to put my dick in them anyway. It's just my style, right? I'm just weird sort of humanoid that I am. I don't really, now, like yourself, I've got a long-term poly partners at this point. Haven't had sex with a new person in that, been a little while. But I really don't have a lot of preconceived notions because I don't go from 0 to 60, right? There's always this
You
this
do
build-up.
emotionally sometimes, but not physically. I would throw that out there. I think you go emotionally 0 to 60 sometimes.
I think I
Or at least
build.
it looks like it from the side.
I think because you and I haven't, and now we haven't yet to explore the swinging thing
Again.
skillfully. That's how I'll say it. Is when I do have a sexual partner, we build a relationship first. So I don't have sexual partners that I'm not compatible with.
See, that's demisexual.
Okay, I don't care, but I build that compatibility with somebody first. So I know that, they're going to like the things I like and that kind of thing. If they are into porn fucking, which is just slam, bam, bam, bam for long periods of time, I can parse that out beforehand and say, well, I'm not that guy. That's not what we're going to be doing. If that's what you dig, great, but you need to dig it with somebody else. So I really don't have a lot of concerns going into it. Now, all that being said, if I was to if I did pickup play, for sex, would I have concerns? Or would it be like, well, I don't know this person anyway, so fuck it. On the other hand, it's
Yeah, I don't
tricky.
know. I don't know. So,
Fortunately, there's a lot of, that's our trip, right? Like I said, later into the podcast, we'll be talking about
we
anxiety.
just did some self-therapy on that. So,
You did. You got some issues, baby.
Do I now?
Apparently, you think a lot about,
I think a lot anyway.
you
I'm a
do think a lot.
thinker. I'm a thinker.
And I'm having dreams about guys, so.
And I'm
yes.
worried for the other people. It's not just worried about me, it's worried for the other people.
That it won't meet their expectations.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it won't meet their expectations.
See, that used to be a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And, but so much of this shit is programmed in.
That's very
And
true.
I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of partners that have said it's bullshit. Don't worry about that. What we are doing is what I want, And whether I am, I don't know what whether I last a short amount of time or a long amount of time, I take that back. One of my very, very, very first partners said, wow, that's it.
Ooh.
Right? So that carries.
That carries weight.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd forgotten about that. Oh, man.
Gee, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, we are going to need therapy after this one. But before we get into any more therapy, I do want to mention thank you to Baby Love, who mentioned that their partner was willing to do some tech support with us. They reminded me that we've actually met them at the Kinky College, which apparently we're going to again if it actually happens this time. Never know with the way things are, but it looks like it's going to happen. So if they are at Kinky College, then Baby Love, I will say thank you for the offer of tech support in person. And also, I will point out that, yes, as to someone's comments out on the Discord, they mentioned that, last week's show, number 577, did sound a little different on the audio. It's funny, I don't remember if they said it sounded like we were in a cave. I felt we were in a cave, but we were using, it's the natural sound of the RV without the acoustical accompaniments of the microphones that we currently use.
Exactly. So that was our YouTube show, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to sound a little different.
But no big deal, right? We did an interview recently with somebody who said, I send microphones to my guest so that they sound good. And I was like, wow, that's pretty smart.
That's pretty smart, except I'm the one that's going to have to mail the microphones. That means I have to find post offices in each little town we're in.
That's true. But I am an audio
File.
I guess. Yeah, I do take. I don't know about anybody else, but I can't listen to like those. What is it? There's one podcasting service out there where it's free, but you dial in on your phone and you just call and it sounds like,
Oh,
and
it
I just,
sounds like a call, yeah.
yeah,
And we've got some of that on some of our past shows, and
yeah.
it is what it is.
Somebody's going to pull out
But
episode 104 and say, "You mean like this crap?" Other than
so for the
that,
people that have made it through that and up to episode 570 some, perseverance.
perseverance, absolutely. So, with that, we are going to get into our interview. I do want to mention real quickly out on the Discord. Thank you for somebody that shared a picture of their corgi. Sometimes we talk about stuff that's not sex, and sometimes we talk about our pets. We'd mentioned one of the challenges that we have with living in the RV is that we're a little concerned that Ginger, the poly puppy, might get out. And looks like Staten F mentioned there's this GPS pet trackers that
It's
you can
called
get.
Whisper something, and
Whisper or whistle?
Whistle. Yeah,
Whistle, yes.
Whistle. So, and I thought I was going to remember the name of it from here to there, and I do not. It is Whistle something, and of course I've lost it again.
But
There it is. It is literally called Whistle, whistle.com.
And there was some curiosity is if could I put that GPS tracker on a wayward submissive and use that to track them.
That would be fun. Oh, because I just had this vision of a slave hunt. We've done that. That's
We
happened
have, yes.
at a pagan event before where we had the wild hunt. And man, like I said, I'm in my 50s now. I'm going to break something
Shit, we
in the
did-
dark in the woods.
We did that in Texas.
the witch
hunt
hunt.
in Texas. That was pretty cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was hot. That's in our book. We talk about that in our book, Sex Stories and Power Exchange.
Well, now people know it's real.
They do. Well, people know a couple of the ones that are real.
All right, on to the interview. But first, really quickly, I do want to thank you to Kayabi for sending me some chocolate sauce with sprinkles on boobs. My favorite way to eat chocolate sauce and sprinkles.
Indeed. So, and Peachy, so we got our tattoos mixed up last week. So you were talking about the one that was the multiple women from Basanos, and I was talking about the one that kind of looks like Hente from Peachy. So that one's hot too. And we may have talked about that one a little bit because I think we were saying it would be hard for us to actually put tattoos on us that the grandkids couldn't see. And that one was very erotic.
That one was very erotic, and
That
is
one
not
was
gonna
naughty.
not gonna hide that one too
Naughty,
well.
naughty. And then
Not
we
on
had
bathing
somebody.
suits.
Oh, I know something. See, we've got Discord and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and FetLife and all these things. And sometimes it's hard to keep track of who sends what where. But I think it was on Instagram. Someone sent me a TikTok, and it's a TikTok on Instagram. So I bet it was and Sam Wall.
Yes.
So he sends me a lot of TikTok stuff on there. And it talks about, the TikTok he sent me talks about, oh shoot, I forget the name that they use. Is it like Cretans or something like that? But that sounds slightly wrong. Where they talk about like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and things like that. And this one also talked about the Kraken. So that was kind of cool. So yeah. that
Very
was
cool.
neat. So thank you for thinking of me. Awesome.
So, in this particular time when I'm doing this interview, there is a lot of anxiety out there in the world. There's some kind of a pandemic. There's people who haven't left their house in over a year, going back into the wild. There's so much turmoil that creates anxiety in our life. But we've always had anxiety around intimacy. Fortunately for me today, we have Jeff Abraham, the CEO of Prominescent, talking with us about eliminating that anxiety in intimacy. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I would have to say I was amazed I have not covered this topic before on the podcast because intimacy by nature requires us to be very vulnerable and very, well, hell, just the vulnerability of taking your clothes off with somebody for the first time is a huge deal for some people, right?
Correct.
So, and then you've got all this other stuff going on as a doesn't matter if you're a male-bodied person or a female-bodied person or even non-binary, we are programmed to have anxiety around sexuality from a male perspective. I tell you, Jeff, when I was in high school and I would tell my friends I had a date and they would say, "Oh, how'd it go?" What they were really asking me was, "Did you get any?" And if I responded by saying, "Oh, it was nice. She's a nice girl," they would translate that to, "Ah, oh, you didn't get any. You're such a loser," right?
Yeah.
So
Your friends were more politically correct than mine. My friends just went, "Did you get any?" They didn't even start with how to go. They just got right to the direct point.
So we built this anxiety into all this and all the jokes about sex and all that kind of stuff. So where do we start with eliminating some of this anxiety in intimacy?
I think it starts in two different ways. Number one, and I'll address them, they're opposite ends of the spectrum. Number one, I think a lot of anxiety that exists in people that have just come into their sexual awakening, say they're 40 or under in the last 20 years, they are most likely to have watched porn prior to having sex. I'm just thankful that I didn't have to do that. So that the first time I had sex, I didn't have a vision that the average erect penis was 10 inches long, had the girth of a beer can, and you thrusted for 50 minutes. And then right before ejaculation, you got up, ran across the room and shot somebody in the forehead from 40 yards away. Okay. So, when I was fumbling and bumbling, being the idiot that I was, I thought, hey, I'm a pretty good lover because I didn't have to compare myself to watching Johnny Sins and, all the adult porn stars. That's right. Number one. Number two, I think that a lot of times people make sex out to be some religious experience, and it's a bodily function. It's the same thing as eating and urinating. You get an urge. Sometimes you're hungry, you eat. Sometimes you feel a pressure in your bladder, you have to urinate. You get horny and you want to have a release. You want to have sex. It's not a religious experience. Now, that's not to say you should go out and be promiscuous and screw every person and have unprotected sex on planet Earth, but you should dial it back a little bit and realize that sex is natural, that it's a bodily function, that if you're with a partner who consents and you're both very comfortable, that it's okay to do it, and that you should communicate and have dialogue, find out what they like, tell them what you like, and meet somewhere in the middle. I think a lot of the anxiety comes from the unknowing and having apprehension because you don't communicate.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. But, we say that, oh, you should just have a communication, but that's not as easy as it sounds, right?
No, for a lot of people, it's unbelievably difficult.
Mm-hmm. So how do you have that conversation, right? How do you broach that subject, right? I mean, it's hard enough just to say, yeah, I would like to have sex with you and not worry about, oh man, now I've offended you and now I'm going to get canceled and all this other, negative connotations that go with that. But then to go into something like, I'd like you to spank me, or I want to, I'd love a blowjob right now.
Yeah, I think though it comes from knowing the person you're with and knowing that you've developed hopefully some level of trust and understanding before you get to that point. So if the person's obviously a complete stranger, you don't know. But, I know for me that generally when I'm intimate with someone, it's because I've gotten to know them a little bit and I do have an idea. You're not going to say, hey, can I go down on you with this double-sided dildo? And you have no idea whatsoever. And the person might go, what? It's like, I think it's a very good idea to, communicate, get to know someone, and maybe ask them, what do you find pleasurable, what not, what turns you on, those kind of things. And, you have to have an aura about you that puts a person at ease that they can trust you. I think a lot of times the uncertainty and the anxiety comes that if you don't trust one another, it's like, oh my God, I can't do that. What if people find out, or, I can't do that. Maybe he'll think I'm a bad person. I always like to tell women that I date that I don't judge. Wherever you've been prior, I don't care. I care about the present, where we're at right now. And I want to know, and I'm a little bit older, I'm 64. I want to know what makes a woman, gives her pleasure. I want to be that person because you get a lot of kudos and you get a lot of compliments for being this great lover if you really try to please your partner. But in reality, you're being selfish, because the more you please someone, the more you get pleased. The more a woman finds pleasure, the more intense her orgasm, the more focused she is on making sure she keeps that man happy and in her life. So I always tell people to be open, be honest, and communicate. And you'll get to a point where you both are trying very hard to please one another, because it's a good relationship.
But what about when that intimacy, or what about that anxiety is something due to a programmed response because of a physical attribute? So, for example, maybe you've got a less than normal, maybe you got a small dick, right?
Yeah.
Relatively based on the average. And you know what? Going all the way back, I did watch a porn. That was my first experience with sex. And it just so happened that it starred John Holmes, which for our young
Jesus.
listeners doesn't mean anything, but for your and my age group, you know, we know that is the
We know
monster.
exactly who John Holmes was, the Wad, Johnny Wad Holmes.
Yeah, and not who you want to compare yourself to, right? But
Yeah.
if you do have, is it just a matter, is that same communication to say, hey baby, just so happens I have a less than normal sized, or for the female's perspective, right? I don't come easily, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, what I would say, to be honest with you, is, you know, I'm not hung like a racehorse. I'm a pretty average dude. And sometimes, because of what I do for a living, running this company, I have to tell people, hey, if you're expecting, you know, Seattle Slew here, you might got the wrong guy. But I literally say to people, you know, I'm a normal guy, but I have an array of vibrators. I obviously have an array of toys and lotions and everything else. My goal is to give you pleasure. And it can be with vaginal penetration. It can be with digital penetration. It can be cunnilingus. It can be with a wider range of vibrators. At this point in my life, I'm just into pleasing my partner. And, you know, you look at studies and you find that 40% of women can never, you know, orgasm with vaginal penetration. So get over the fact that, you know, one of the things that's interesting to me when we first started this company, which was 11 years ago, we read this poll by Cosmo. I think they asked like 1,000 men, what would really give you better sex? And I think 78% of men said a bigger dick. And they asked 1,000 women, you know, what would give you, you know, better sex? And I think 72% of women said if my partner lasted longer. So it just shows you that guys get all caught up in dick size, okay? Unless you have been castrated, you can work with what you have, but be a creative lover, be an innovative lover, and, you know, use oral sex, use, you know, toys, use vibrators, use whatever it takes to get your partner off. And you may find that your partner has stronger orgasms in other ways other than vaginal penetration.
Have you done any, and maybe it's too early to even answer this question, but and maybe this is a theory that we're going to talk about. What do you think the post-COVID world is going to look like from a sex perspective? And what I mean by that is not just, you know, we're opening the door on swing clubs and that kind of thing, but just general human beings have a higher level of anxiety in general. Is that going to translate to the bedroom, do you think? Or do you think that's
No.
it's separate? No, separate thing.
Separate. Behavior doesn't change like that. There are so many people, even some people that are very sensitive to COVID, you know, and wear masks and everything else. They might be a little more selective and go, I want to make sure my partner's been vaccinated. I've been vaccinated, and, you know, we're both careful. But our sales thrived during COVID. They continue to thrive, you know, as things opened up. Now things are, you know, starting to close down a little bit more. They're still thriving. The urge to procreate is so strong. Nothing is slowing that down. Nothing. Okay. Unless they find out that having sex, you know, is a pandemic itself and can kill you. Trust me, the pandemic is not going to slow people. They may have less partners, but they're not going to have less sex.
Very cool. Do you think, do you ever get pushback? And I'm going to roll back on something you said earlier about sex. It's don't make too much out of it. It's not a religious experience. Do you ever get pushback on that where people say, you know what, I do believe sex is a sacred thing. It's a sacred thing between two people, and it should be maybe not a religious experience, but certainly a significant experience.
Well, no, I'm all for that. If that's what you believe, then certainly run with it. I'm talking about the hangups that people have that, you know, women thinking I shouldn't be with more than one guy my entire life, and it's causing anxiety. You know what I mean? Guys thinking that, oh, I'm not supposed to have sex until marriage. I'm doing something wrong.
Okay.
There are certain religions that literally say you should only have sex to procreate. You shouldn't be having sex for enjoyment. That's insane. Okay. I mean, that's literally crazy. But I'm not telling one don't do it, but you brought it up in the context of people having anxiety. So I'm not saying I'm all for anyone doing whatever it is that works for them. But we were talking about the context of things that bring anxiety. And from what I do for a living and talk to people all day, I know there's a lot of people I deal with that we talk about, some of the issues they're having, and they bring up that, well, this isn't supposed to be done in my religion. You know what I mean? And according to my religion, I shouldn't be having sex unless it's to create life. And I'm like, whoa, that's a little harsh, Wow. So I was answering that. I'm all for anyone. If that's what you believe and that's what your religion tells you to do and you're comfortable with it. But we were talking about when anxiety is created through certain things. And I'll be honest with you, I talk to people all day, every day, and probably about 20% of people that I deal with that have anxiety, it has to do with their religion, that they feel they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing according to their church or their religion.
I'm just gonna. That's terrible. But that's my personal opinion. It's super unfortunate that religion is causing people that much anguish.
Oh, I believe that religion should be about reducing anxiety, making you feel good about your life, And, I remember a couple years ago, well, it's actually 2012, I saw the Pope in Africa saying that it was a sin and that people who were true Catholics would not use, condoms because, they don't believe in birth control, that the Lord tells you, when you deliver children and everything. And I'm like, there's a freaking, AIDS epidemic. There's 1 of every 7 people in Africa dying of AIDS. And you have the Pope telling people not to use condoms. I'm like, that's insane. Okay. That is just it's not practical and it's not safe. It's not really sensible,
You're not going to get a disagreement out of me.
Yeah. So I think that the sooner we realize that sex is natural, sex is comfortable, sex makes you feel good. Having climax and orgasm is something that, reduces stress in your life and really and truly gives you a feeling of euphoria. If there's one thing we need in this world, it's more of a feeling of euphoria and less anxiety and less angst and less, combative nature of people.
I'm all for that. Do you ever get people? I mean, obviously, you talk to a lot of people, and you talk to a lot of people that are dealing with the anxiety. Do you get people that you see the light bulb go off, and if so, what is that most common key that you've said? Well, did you think about this, or have you tried this, or that kind of thing?
For me, when I get a response and it's positive, it's generally when somebody literally, we have a conversation. I tell them, talk to your partner, and they'll email me back or call me back or text me back and go, you're not going to believe it. He wanted some of the same things I did, or she wanted some of the same things I did. We just didn't feel comfortable enough to tell one another. So that to me has been the biggest breakthrough, when people literally feel comfortable enough to communicate with their partner.
Oh, that's fantastic. And we've had that same experience hearing that from people. Especially if you're in a long-term committed loving relationship, even if there's so much power in being able to speak your truth.
Yes.
Even if the other person says, you know what, that's not for me, but I hear you.
Yeah. And it's not to say that every time you bring something up, the person's going to go, oh, we want exactly the same things. Like you said, there may be times where the other person literally says, that's just not something I'm comfortable with. That's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. But you have to put it out there to find out. And at least and you feel better about that's just not something that they're comfortable with. But at least rather than suffering in silence and going, man, I wish I had the courage to bring this up because I'd really like to do this.
Very cool. So one more question for you, if you don't mind. And it is a personal question.
Absolutely. Fire away.
So as you've mentioned, you've been the CEO of a company for 11 years now, which is all about sex and everything you need to have amazing sex and all this great stuff, right? Do you get a lot of perhaps suggestions that do you have women falling all over you? That's really what I'm getting to.
I don't really give out that vibe because I'm 64 and, I've never been married. So I've had a pretty, colorful life. And I'm at the point in my life now where I don't want to have intimacy with a lot of different people because I don't have time to know a lot of people superficially. So there are times where, you do get hit on, especially like when you do podcasts and you do radio shows and, you go to events and you go to shows and stuff that people literally make it clear that, oh, I'd really like to find out, I've heard you talk and you're really fascinating. But I just very quickly shut that down because I'm in a committed relationship. And at this point in my life, I don't want to know that many people superficially. And I don't have, like you said, it's vulnerability and it's awkward the first time you're really getting undressed with someone and finding out what each other likes. I can't wait. And hopefully it'll be in the next couple of years when I really get that feeling like this is the person I'm spending the rest of my life with. So if I would have had this job in my 20s, trust me, I would have taken full advantage of it. Okay. But at my age, energy level, and everything right now, I don't have time nor the energy to have multiple partners. And I really gravitate towards having a significant relationship with someone I care for and developing a high level of confidence and a high level of trust so we can both kind of live out our fantasies and do what it is that makes us feel good.
Does it bother you if people flirt with you?
No, I find it sometimes I wonder because I'm not exactly Brad Pitt. I mean, I find it enticing, but I'm like, God, they must be really bored if I'm their dream guy, But
Well,
I think anyone would be flattered, you usually are if somebody makes it real obvious they find you attractive. And I kind of laugh at it. But, in reality, you're an image. You know what I mean? When you have a public persona.
mm-hmm.
And no matter what, it's like when you watch The Bachelor and, oh my God, I'm proposing. I found my dream gal. Well, don't go to dinner in the Rose Bowl where they have a string quartet playing and it's you and one other person in a 100,000 square foot stadium. You know what I mean? Having dinner. You find out when you're really compatible and if there's something there when the two of you are together for a week, and just doing regular things, going to, Target and, going to Whole Foods and, working out together. That's when you find out if you really have chemistry and if you have connection with someone. So when I see someone that doesn't really know me flirting with me, I laugh because they don't know me. It's like some image saying, oh my God, this guy's the CEO of this progressive, successful company. He must have this, rock star lifestyle. Far from it. I'm very conservative. I enjoy the simple things in life. And if anyone thinks that hanging out with me is going to be flying around on charter jets or anything like that, they're going to be sadly mistaken. I fly Southwest,
Fair enough. Well, if somebody did want to flirt with you or get a hold of you for any other reason to find out more about you or about your company or have you come out to their events, how would they get a hold of you?
The best way, I'll give you a couple different ways. My email is Jeff, Jeff, .Abraham, Abraham, Jeff.Abraham at Promescent, Promescent, at Promescent.com. You can look me up on Facebook. I'm very prominent. It's Jeff Abraham, I think 111. And on Twitter, it's Jeff Abraham 111. On Instagram, I think it's Jeff Abraham. I think it's 111. I'm pretty consistent there. I answer all emails. I interact with everybody. I think one of the keys, whether it's you want to last longer in bed, use Promescent spray, you want to have more vitality and better erections, you want to use Vitaflux, you want to use lubes, you want to use condoms. We have a whole medical advisory board that includes the president of the International Society of Sexual Medicine, the president of the Sexual Medicine Society of North America. No matter what question you ask me, if I can't answer it myself, I have the resources to go find those answers for you. But the best thing to do if you want to educate yourself is go to promescent.com. That's Promescent, promescent.com, because they have clinical trials on our products there. They have descriptions on our products. They show how to use the products. They show that Certain products are available, like our delay spray, at Target, at certain Walmarts. All of our products are available nationwide at GNC now. So you'll be able to go, which products am I interested in? Here's research to talk about them. There's actually videos where doctors tell you the advantages of them, the benefits of using them. And it'll also show you, if you want to pick it up yourself and not wait for it to be shipped, where to go pick it up immediately. But if you order from our site, it's free shipping. It's generally 2 days, depending upon where you're located from. We have a full 60-day money-back guarantee. So we're very aggressive in customer satisfaction. I want people to feel like we bring value to them.
Very cool. And podcast listeners should be listening to the podcast and making sure that they grab their discount coupon before they head over there. Why not save yourself a little bit more money? Jeff, it has been a pleasure to talk to you today. I figured out when I grow up, I want to be somebody like you. Got their shit together. And
my point is, don't ever grow up. Growing up sucks.
Well, fair enough.
Young, stay youthful, and you know what I mean? Just try to live a little more freely. That's what I tell people, because I'm 64. I'm never growing up. I made it to this point without ever being a grown up. I'm not starting now.
Makes sense to me. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
But thank you. I really appreciate this.
Take a moment to support the podcast.
Rate us on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Or head over to YouTube and rate us over there, wherever you watch.
Or just tell your friends.
We appreciate the interactions, the comments, the emails. Feel free to reach out to us, either via Discord, Facebook, Instagram, or just write us, Dan and Dawn, at eroticawakening.com.
Bye, Dan.
Bye, Dawn.